Hello everyone, welcome to the 8th episode of the challenge 5k to 100k. On this episode I'll share with you some hands that we had throughout the week, and I will also share the results at the end. If you didn't subscribe so far, please subscribe, and that helps me a lot on this new YouTube channel. And without further ado, let's go. Alright, so on our first hand we have an open from the hijack. 216 is a regular, and we have ace queen off on the small blind, and we 3-bet for X 72, and he calls. So we are heads up for a flop jack 6-5 rainbow. Here we decide to go for a small bet. I think that's fine. He went 52 and he calls. The turn comes a queen, offsuit queen, so now a Badugi board. And I think here it makes sense to polarize our range. So I decided to go for a larger bet. We went for 207, setting up stacks for the river, and he decides to call. The river comes 7 of diamonds here. It makes sense to try to go for teen value here. I think ace queen can be a teen value in this spot, but it still makes a lot of sense to do it, as I think he perceives me as an aggressive player, that I can find my bluffs. So I think it makes sense to go for value with this hand. So we went for a shove, 467 effective on a pot of 690, and he 10 calls with 8-7 of hearts. Now let's do the exercise that I like to do, and is to think if his call is good. So the first thing that I like to do is to calculate the pot odds. So he needs to put 467 for a total pot of 1624. That gives him roughly 29%. That means that he needs to be correct at least 29% to be break even or plus EV on this decision. And then we need to break down and to split the value range of the small blinds and the bluff range. So the value range is going to be on the one pair is going to be the ace queen, the aces and kings. So that is going to be 12 combos ace queen, and then 6 and 6 for kings and aces. So that's 24 combos. And then for the two pairs is the queen jack suited. That's another 2 combos. Then is queens and jacks for the sets. So that's another 6 combos. So in total here it's going to be 32 combos for value. Then we need to go for the bluff side, and the bluff side is going to be the 10-9 suited. I'm not having 100% pre-flop, so I will 3-bet I would say half of those, so I'll have 2 of those. So 2 combos of 10-9 suited that I would play like these until the river, and I will bluff river, and then I'll have definitely the king 10 suited, so another 4, and then I'll have the ace 10 suited, another 4, and then I'll have some ace kings, not all, because I think if I'll have all, I'm over bluffing on these spots. I would give them half, so that's going to be another 8. So that would be 8 ace kings, 4 ace 10s, 4 king 10s, so that is 16, and then I'll have 2 9 10s, so that's 18. So that's going to be my range of bluffs, going to be 18 combos. So I have 32 of value and 18 of bluffs. Now is to understand this ratio, and the ratio is splitting the bluffing combos to the total combos of my range. So in this case would be 18 splitting by 50. So that will give roughly 36%, so I'm bluffing around 36%. So what does this mean for the hijack in this situation? So we need to see if he blocks or unblocks any bluffs or values, and the truth is, the bad thing is that he's not blocking any value hands. But the good thing is that he's not blocking any bluffs as well. So the pot odds that the hijack have here in this spot is, to be correct, 29%. And if the small blind is bluffing on this situation 36%, it's plus EV decision to bluff catch with his hand. But now let's think if the hijack would have 10-10, and if it would be a good bluff catching with 10-10. And the answer for that is that it's not going to be a good bluff catching the 10-10. And that is because it's not blocking any value of the small blind, but it blocks a lot of the bluffs. So it double blocks the ace 10, it double blocks the king 10, and it double blocks also the 9-10, the little bit of the 9-10 that the small blind is going to have. So these will block 2 combos of the ace 10, 2 combos of the king 10, and from the 2 combos let's block 1 combo of the 9-10. So that's 5 combos that blocks from bluffs from the 18. So from 18 it passes to be 13, and this ratio passes from being on from 36% to 26%. So blocking these 5 combos of bluffs has a huge impact on the EV. So it will be a bad decision to call with 10-10, but it's a good decision to call with the 8-7 suited. It's quite interesting. All right, so on the next hand, we had the ace-5 suited on the hijack. Everyone folds in the big blind, which is a regular defense. The flop comes 9-8-8 with 2 clubs, and I think after the check, both options are fine. We decide to go for a check this time. The turn comes in offsuit 8, and he decides to go for a big bet, 15-66. And I think here ace-high is still going to be good a lot of the times. It can be attacking my check on the flop, and you can have a lot of 6-7, jack-10, things that goes around the 8 and the 9, and also can have some value bets with the 9 or some pairs. And I think we can still apply pressure if it comes a good river for us, a high card. So we decide to call, and the river comes an ace, and now after he checks, we have a clear value bet. We went for 125, and he decides to check shove. All right, here all the alarms went off. This spot is always an 8. And I'm putting this hand here because I see a lot of people calling off these spots, and I think this is a huge mistake. This is always an 8 here, and I think the right option is to always fold an ace on this spot. So we decide to fold, and on this side we have an option that we can pay for reveal the hands. And I think for the content is an interesting idea. We decide to pay $8 to see. In this case he had the ace 8. Of course I'm not doing this all the time, but I think for the content is a good option. So always fold an ace on this spot. All right, so on the next hand we have pocket 9s on the cutoff. We open to 24, and we have a 3-bet from the button from a regular. We have a clear call. The flop comes jack 7-3 with 2 spades. We have 9 with the spades, and I think here we have a range check, and he decides to go half pot. And facing this bet we have a clear call. The turn comes a 9 of clubs, so opens the second flush draw, and we check with the intentions to check raise, but unfortunately our opponent checks back. The river comes an offsuit 7. And this is a really interesting card, and it's good to understand what would be our best options. With 9-9 here, it's really interesting to understand one concept. We are blocking his check back range with 9-9, and when that happens, it's good to develop check as a trap, because we're gonna have more frequency of betting. So if we would check back on the turn like jack 10 suited or queen jack that he tried to control, is not sure if he's still ahead, and now on a clean river he tries to get some value from, then we're gonna get that bet. Also, we can get bets like from bluffs, but the most important concept is that with the 9x, it's gonna go more often check back, and if we are blocking that, that means that he's gonna have higher frequency of betting. So we decided to check, and he went for half pot, 170, and of course here we have a clear check shove. And he thinks for a long time, and surprisingly he actually had the 9. He had king 9 off, and he decides to call. So yeah, it was an interesting line, and is also an interesting concept. Let me know what you think about this line. So the next hand we have an open on the hijack to 24 from a regular, and we have ace queen off on the small blind, and we decide to 3-bet to 104, and the regular decides to call. The flop comes king 10 5 rainbow, and here is a really good board for us to continue, so we went for a small bet 76 and decide to call. The turn comes a very good card for our range. Comes an ace of spades. We also have the queen of spades. So this is a really good card for us to continue barreling, and it makes sense to go for a larger size. We went for 194, and now he decides to call. And now the river comes a complete brick, comes a 6 of hearts. It's important to understand if we can still triple barrel here for value with ace queen. I think it's a little bit thin to go with ace queen here. We have tons of value hands that we can go. We have ace 5 suited, king king, ace ace, ace 10, ace king, queen jack. So we have tons of value hands. So putting ace queen as well, it's a little bit too thin, but I think my image is a little bit aggressive, and I think they put me with more bluffs than a normal situation. So if they do that, then I think it makes sense to also expand the value region. So I think ace queen here, it's really thin, but I think it makes sense to put it there. So we went for a jam, 420 effective, and he tanked for a long time and decides to call with ace check. So the last hand is a really interesting hand. We have an open 4x from a super VIP recreational under the gun, and then we have an ISO from the cutoff, which is a regular, to 106, and we have ace check off on the button. On a normal situation this is a clear fold, but playing against this player we're gonna try to play the most pots that we can with playable hands, and we have a cold call here with the ace check off. And also, just to put a note here, all of my range of continuation will be played as a cold call here, because I want to include the recreational in the hand. So goes back to the end of the gun and he decides to 4-bet to 180, and now the regular has a decision here, but he's aware that all of my range here is going to be cold calling range. He knows that I will have a very strong portion of my range here, aces, kings, queens, and so I think he tanked for a long time, decides to call, and here we have a clear call. So we see a beautiful flop, ace jack deuce, rainbow, and now the recreational decides to overbet jam. On a pot of 568 he jammed for 675, and for my surprise the regular decided to shove for almost 2k, and of course we have here an easy call. The pot is almost 600, over 600 big blinds. So the recreational shows 3 deuce suited and the regular ace queen suited. So let's try to hold these. The turn brings the 4 of hearts, so gives a straight draw to the recreational, but the river comes a clean one and we won this 5k pot. Let me know what you think about this hand. And now the results of the week. So we start on the 19th of January with the win $277. On the 20th of January, we won $4,501. On the 21st of January, we won $11. We played about 1,500 hands and we ended up almost break even. On the 22nd of January, we lost $1,198. And on the 23rd of January, we won $5,491. So for the total of the week, we played 33 hours. We played 8,094 hands and we won $9,082. This week we did a massive change on our structure of the day. I noticed that I was starting to do way more night shifts. I was going through the night playing, and then that would mess up my sleep patterns, and I was not putting exercise at all. So I decided to do a change on my structure of the day, and that was very simple. Waking up at 7 a.m., putting a workout in the morning, then breakfast, and start my first session, online session, from around 9:30 to 1, and then 1 hour break for lunch with the family, and then from 2 to 6 the second session. After 6 then family time, really important. Doing this from Monday to Friday. Saturday I still do the workouts, but then the time that I would be doing the online sessions I will putting on the video, and then Sunday morning I put the video online, and Sunday is a completely day off. So this is going to be my structure. So I'll play around 7 hours per day for 5 days, so that will be around 35 hours a week. And yeah, this week it pay off. I feel way better in all the levels. It's very easy for a poker player to get out of the route and starting to delay the times to sleep, sleeping less, spending less time with family, or working out less. At least with me that happened a lot of times, and it's always good to have this wake-up call, this is what I call it, sometimes, to just put me on the right tracks. So that's what I did this week. I'm planning to continue to do this. So far it's helping me a lot. Challenge total, so we played 8 weeks since we started the challenge, and we played 282 hours. We played 68,994 hands, and we won $45,226. Our bankroll at the moment is $50,226. If you enjoyed this video, please press a thumbs up. I will be here next week, and I wish you a blessed one.